Hello, people and bots. Grandpa Canuck here, and we're in Hearts of Iron 4, Black Ice mod, Germany, 1936. I ran a few days in getting myself organized, and this playthrough is going to be a late war start. What I intend is to, in 1937, I'm going to take out Denmark. We'll see how Iceland and Greenland fall with that. Hopefully at least one in our favor. We will get an early base out in the Atlantic. If we do that, we will develop the Faroe Islands, Iceland, and Denmark a little bit. This will be a Z-Plan playthrough, and we're going to go to war late. I don't intend to start war with the Allies till at least 1942. That is the plan. We will take out Austria. We will take out the Sudetenland. We will see about the rest of Czechoslovakia. Probably yes. Memel, probably yes. Poland, no. We will halt the line there, and we will see how things go. If we get to 1939 and accomplish everything, and there's still room to play, I may decide to go after Sweden as well. We will see how this plays through. So it would be nice to take Denmark out in 1937, Sweden in 1939 or 40. 40 is more realistic, and then hold off till 1942 to start with Poland. That's the plan. Let's see how it goes. Okay, right now, I know I'm going to have to develop naval air power. I know I'm going to have to get into the Z plan and develop a navy, and I'll have to do this with less resources than I would have in 1940 and 41, because I won't have Poland or be going into the Low Countries in France. So as much self-development as I can put together in that time, I will develop the tank lines. I am probably going to produce a lot of inexpensive Panzer IIs early on and get a lot of light units. I am not going to build a huge amount of trucks. I think I will use them in a transport capacity, but not for infantry. Maybe speeding up the artillery and special support groups, etc. I will also have some motorcycles, and I will try and get into mechanized to replace the trucks for the specialized units by 1941. That's the plan. Air Force wise, we will have to develop and build some naval bombers, flying boats, etc. So I have my usual beginning setup here. Most of this is pretty standard for me. I do have one or two different items under the naval that I'd start with. Obviously the 109Bs, the Panzer IIs, combat engineer companies, and these are two of the three I will use as well. I need to make a decision on developing nuclear technology, and I think I would like to use rockets and nuclear technology in this playthrough to see how it goes, since I'm a late war start, and see if I can actually get a movement on the on the map with that before the end of the war. It might be a good way to knock out the Russians. We'll see how it goes from there. But if we start in 1942 with Poland, hopefully we can go till 1943 or 1944 before being at war with the Soviet Union. All of the players are set for the standard World War II scenario. Nothing is varied, not even Hungary. Okay. I will develop the plan of having an intelligence agency, and we will see if we can use that to our advantage. I will be building a lot of civilian factories to start, and then I will switch out and build other things as I progress. But I want to get a good start on that. I will enter the Rhineland first and do my my standard development on the early part of the tech tree, but it may very well be very different than a lot of my other playthroughs. Let's get her going. This is a lot of hurry up and wait. I'm not too concerned about building right off the bat. I've divided my units into a Czech front, a centralized front, a western front, a southern front, an eastern front, a northern front, and East Prussia. Okay, we're into February. Our oil is not enough. Let's just check on things here. Everything else I think is good enough in line here. Let's get some more oil in, and we will use Venezuela. It's giving us a growth, but not a huge growth. Okay. Now, with that in mind, a couple of production items. This is a mine force. I'm going to temporarily change this over to be called training. And I'm going to do that because all of these I want to go directly into the training fleet. And they will do this. I will maintain a training fleet throughout the war as I produce new ships, and once they are through a level of training, then I will send them to their task force assignments from there. We will see what intelligence tells us, but overall, I am not going to start aircraft carriers early, but if I progress into 1941 and I'm not at war, I can see that I may at least do some conversions. A lot of tedious stuff here. The first video in the series for Germany is always very tedious with crap. There should be one button I can press to do all of this. If that exists, please message me, because I don't know what it is. There we go. The other thing I want to do is I want to bring these up the list. Now I have to start with something as far as training goes. So let's take this fleet under him, and we'll do naval exercises to get them up and running first. And then it's still not quite enough oil. Okay, we've entered the Rhineland. Go. So these units now are part of the West. There we go. I'm not too concerned, but I do believe I should be able to change a number of things here. I have 75 more than I need. There, and 325 more than I need here. So there's 33, 50 some odd, so 275 less. Reduce that round to around 25. That looks good. Okay, oil, we'll need a bit more. Okay, and we have 10 more factories. I'm going to make more of these cheap tanks for now because I know I'm going to convert them. There. And let's add, what do I want? 123A. Is that the early one? Let me just check on that. Echo 46C. Why am I getting so confused over this? Can't remember whether that's the right one or not. That's got an available C attack. Okay, so that's it. Either one of those is it. 51C. It's multi-roll. Multi-roll. I have a telephone call. I am back. That was a medical related. So it is the HS 123 A1. That's a multi-roll. So that's the one I want for designated close air support. Okay. And then let's go with the 59 as well. Okay, that's that. I added one there. So I have 7 more here. 2 here. 3, 4, 5, 6. And 7. So I'm going to need 14 more steel. 7 down. I have 16. So I need a little bit more iron. That should work. There we go. And I have enough aluminum. Yeah. And rubber and oil. Okay. Let's get rocking. Improve smelting. What do I want? Do I want tough? Interrogator? Tough? Seducer? I think we're going to take a seducer to start with. That also adds 3 stability. 3% stability. Okay, get that going early. Procedure for doctrines. It's 1938. Let's go with this first support doctrine. We're going to want several things there. Okay, and let's continue on. We'll add a couple more. Dockyard research. It's 28 days. And I need to get this area going as well. Let's go over here. Okay. I'm going to want to convert those, get those big ships going quicker. We'll slow down the other ones. So I'm going to need more steel. There we go. Maybe I can befriend Yugoslavia along the way. That would be a nice change. I actually have enough for 18. That's enough. Energy is still very good. Okay, I've got 30 points. Let's look at simplifying a unit. Let's duplicate that. And this is going to be an infantry unit, which we will simply make we'll start out just with militia. This is a very small militia unit. But we will call it light division. Just simply call it 2M. Well, my plan is to develop the units don't have cavalry equipment for these. We'll get them. Okay. quality control. I'm ever fearful of getting bombed as Germany. Doesn't matter what you do, you could never stop them. There's the Panzer IIs. And let's get the cars. Still making 1As. Convert that to 1Bs. It's not much of a drop. And we'll convert this one to a Panzer II. About 20 points. Intermediate. Gasoline or diesel? Go with diesel. Coils. Differential rear. IC cost is the same. Gives me defense, breakthrough, and armor with +2 reliability. 1.5 reliability. This gives me more attack. 2.2. This gives me more breakthrough. We'll go with the clutch brake. Flat. Riveted. Enclosed, riveted. And standard gearbox. Okay, so there's my Panzer IIA design. This is 1936, April. Oh, I think that was Clyde. My 2 green-cheeked conures. One of them was at the food tray. The other one's cuddling up to some glass. They're both considered outdated. Panzer 1Bs. I'm not going to consider outdated yet. I may make a modification to them. Let's actually just take a look. I have a simple gearbox. Change it to a standard gearbox. We've got a leaf suspension. Change it to a coil suspension. They have a 100 gasoline. We'll keep it. These are faster little takes. We'll add the internal optics. And this is going to be a 1936 April design as well. Only cost me $1. Okay. Naval Department, and I'm also need more steel. Got enough? No, it's not enough. That's definitely enough. And Naval Department. Let's get an Air Force Department. Combat Engineer Company. We'll work those in eventually. Nothing before 1938 on this screen, other than paratroopers, which I'm not going to go with. So 37 would still put me ahead. Let's go with this. Making the 109s, and I need 2 aluminum. Don't have enough bauxite. We'll get that from Hungary. should do us fine for a while. Military factories. Stability, base stability up, factory output up. Let's go with that. A lot of things got to happen here early on. Okay, how's this fleet doing? Mostly trained. Let's draw you back. You're trained. Let's move you to here. And you need to move to here. Don't know why you're coming on there. Join those together. You're an F1. Pull you back here for now. And let's just have you train. Escape artist and tough. Oh, I like that. Escape artist and tough. Now, make sure Sweden stays on good standings with us, and you don't have a location I can use that. We'll control trade out of Romania. Boost them up a little bit. Okay. How long? Can't do anything there. Training standards, press, security. Can't go to warmonger. So let's hold off. We'll put in a theorist here for now. Wood-fired engines. This isn't anything. It's going to slow me up, but let's get it in. Still want more civilian factories. They are just so good to have. That leads to the Z plan. General Weaver. What am I short on? Steel. Still a little short. That's enough. We're not trained yet. Actually, Okay. There's our new units. We're going to put them into a training group. And only 9 points, so let's just leave that for now. But those units are done. Lots of units. They'll be small, but we can increase them. We have the manpower in. We just have to reallocate it for what function we want it to be. What a fight! Okay. Yeah, tanks rolling too. Italy finally takes over. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, I'll lose it. Down 1 steel. Spanish Civil War. How do I want to handle the Spanish Civil War? Clyde, do you have some opinion on the Spanish Civil War? Is that what you're saying? You do? Well, it's going to be 2 units. Do I send 2 armored units? Or an armored and an infantry. The infantry I can change to something else. as it gains combat experience. I think we create 2 armored units. And this will be the Spanish Expeditionary Force. So first thing we want to do is send volunteers, Air Force, and Rommel with the Spanish Expeditionary Force of 2 divisions. We will send that. That's accepted. Air units. We'll send 1 fighter unit. I think I'm going to send a medium bomber unit. I really want to get to this quick. So let's jump there. Okay, you are going to do air superiority in the capital region. You are going to close air support in this region. There we go. So far everything's going well. You can just add more. Is there any way I want to alter this? Do I have armored cars to do that? Almost. Why is it only 1? So I don't. Don't really need anti-tank down there. Mobile anti-air may be useful. Hello, Sun Ming. Sun Mingo? Am I reading that correctly? Glad you could rejoin me. You've been here before. want to get this as soon as possible. Okay, it's 1936. I've got to do something. Guess that makes the most sense. Diesel-powered emergency pumps. That's a good upgrade item. Improved fire control system. That's a good upgrade item. Well, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. Okay. We'll get to the Z plan. Plus 10% base stability. The population increase for a number of years. Rest up a little. Oh, what do we got going here? Another 10. Going to another training unit. Training 2. You You are technically done, but you're not. You have 10 points. So what I'm going to do with you, I'm going to edit this, duplicate it, and add 2 light infantry. That's going to be 2 militia, 2 light infantry. We're just going to label that as really slightly better militia unit. And all of these guys we will upgrade. Okay, and add 10 more. Get these little divisions going. Any decision? Well, you're right. You know, I have to do a number of things here. We're going to do all those. In Persia? Yeah, this time I will. It's going to be a late war start. I'm going to delay the start of war as long as I can, even 1942, I hope. Start that nasty 4-year plan. I guess what do I want? I want Spearhead. And I'm going to want you eventually to be a combined arms. How late? I think I answered you. 1942. Maybe I'll even. I think I'd like to wait and see what the Japanese do and how that plays out. But I may make a move on Denmark or Denmark and Sweden uh, before that, seeing on how it goes for war. Yeah, definitely late war. I'm spamming building the factories more than anything. Where do I want to go? Yeah, I want to do something a little alt different as well with the late war. We'll see how it goes. those upgrade done. Let's edit that. Let's duplicate that. Okay, we're going to make this into... This is going to be a basic static unit. So I want the engineering company. I'm going to put a hospital company. And an anti-tank. Okay, so that's going to be the basics of a defensive unit. And we will convert all of these guys to that. Lots of equipment, no trouble. And let's still add a few more. Hold. Get back in there. Panzer IVs are ready before the Panzer IIIs. take that because I get the research slot. And it's a hell of a long way off. That's just as far off. I have 12 points. Can I get a Panzer IV? Intermediate. We'll go with 15. No, this isn't what I want. This is the one I want. Panzer IV will be the close support tank. Twin gasoline engine, but very small. Coil. Clutch. Standard. Design is too expensive. I only have 12 points. I only have 12 points. Okay, can't quite do it. Trotsky's expelled. Got my ass kicked. I've got suicide pills. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Well, I gotta do this sometime. Get her done. He's really hitting Rommel. Tip of the spear. He's gonna hit him in rotation from all around, isn't he? Okay. I haven't looked at this in a while. I'm sure this is done. Yes, it is. Let's start the Air Force training. Everything here. That's an awful lot of training, but we will hold. No, that's as good as I can get it. Okay, we got to restart the game for that to take effect. Oh well. Okay, now I should be able to do that tink. Okay, so this is the first iteration, 1937 February. Something we've got to give. What do we have lots of? Light anti-tank. Heavy transport. Whoops. Didn't do that. Man, getting my ass kicked. Okay, the Panzer III is going to be the standard medium tank. A slightly better engine. Coils. I'm still going to go with the low end. We're going to go with balanced. 15. 37 February. Okay. So let's actually stop production of these now. We'll turn that into the 3Ks. And we need a little bit more steel. Yeah, we'll go with the Spanish state. That's enough. Okay, training. Not done yet. Not done yet. Man, why am I feeling like I'm in a defensive war here? Diplomatic pressure 0.4. An AI-controlled nation to prefer your faction in non-aggression pacts. Tightening this restriction, no, that's not going to help most things. It's a long ways away from needing any of this. The one that could backfire is Czechoslovakia, so let's put them in there. What's up, birdies? Maybe need to start changing that a little bit. You guys can upgrade to those. You guys can upgrade to those. And you guys need something entirely different. We have 18 points. So let's add a regular infantry. You will become a regular infantry, and you will become a regular infantry. So that's going to be 2 light and 3 regular infantry. That's no longer a light division. That's going to be a standard infantry division. And we will make it a slight infantry division like that. I don't know whether I duplicated that. Those all turn into them. Okay. Let's... Do I have enough for one of those? Yeah. Do I have enough for two? Not quite. Really low on the light vehicles. Get a lot of spammed units. This assault here is just not doing well. It just does not want me there. Gotta get that one done. Man, just beating the crap out of this guy. Jesus, we got beat again. This is a tough one. Okay, so give them all the World War I uniforms. Give them trains. $500. $500. Infantry guns. Hello, first time chat. Captain 152. Hello. Appreciate you joining. Are you a Black Ice mod fan? Or just a Hearts of Iron fan? Are you a newbie? Are you well experienced in the game? What's your angle? And my two birds, my two green cheek conures, Bonnie and Clyde, have some questions apparently for you too. Hopefully you speak bird. Their human is very limited. Right, birdies? You're limited to like Pretty Bird, Din Din, Poopy. You're gonna come over here because I'm talking to you now? I'm saying all the birdie birds. Pretty Bird, yeah. You're a pretty bird. Yeah, you're both pretty birds. Where are we? May 1937. Let's go with a better flying boat. I don't have everything on NATO symbols, but these are NATO symbols. These are here. I have a tutorial on the basic ones used. I don't have the advanced mode for NATO symbols turned on. I just have the basic NATO symbols that are used in Black Ice mod. I do have a tutorial on my YouTube page if you need that. If there's anything in particular you have a question for, let me know. As far as the symbols go. So yeah, if you're the basics of the NATO symbols all have some relevance to real-world visual of a unit. The oval is a track, so that's a tracked unit, armor. The X is like the traditional cross belts on an infantryman's shirt, so that's infantry. If it's blank, you got next to nothing, so that's like a static unit. I don't stick to them 100% when I use them, but I keep the basics. You're not interested in challenging yourself that much. Well, play Romania or Hungary or Finland. There's not a lot of extra with those countries because you don't have to worry so much about armor and you don't have to worry about so much. It does give you more capability of controlling the design of your units. That's the big thing I like. Yes, you're absolutely correct. You have this industrial base and energy that you need to manage, and therefore you have to produce the steel out of iron and coal, and there's bauxite for making aluminum, etc. I like the realism. I'm a military historian, retired, so I've been playing strategy games since the 70s. I was a gamer since I was 5 years old. So between my military historian background and my gaming background in general, there's nothing that really can surprise me with what they can throw at you. I've seen board games from the 70s that are more complex than this. Your nerves are not ready for this? Well, just watch it when you want. I do have a series of tutorials on it. So, read through, look at the introduction to Black Ice. It might calm your nerves a little bit. It's not as scary as a lot of people play it out to be. I am a grandpa like on the profile pic. Yes, I am. I am in my early 60s. I have a grandson who's like 17. I've got 3 kids and 2 pet birds. So I've been around the block a couple of times. And since I was involved as a military historian in museums, I did a lot of educating from grade school kids through to assisting authors in research for books. And I have done interviews of military veterans from various armies, Germany included, Canada included, because I am Canadian. Definitely British. So I approach the game maybe from a little different angle than a lot of people. And because of my background, some gaming stuff is just too simple and silly. Yes. The biggest project I was involved in was saving a Cold War era Canadian submarine, bringing it from the Atlantic coast to the Great Lakes, called Ojibwa. So if you Google Ojibwa, submarine. Don't get it confused with the people. I ran that site the year that it opened, back about, I don't know, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And I interviewed, I prepared displays in museums, I ran education programs, a lot of grade 10, which in my province of Ontario is a mandatory course of Canadian history in grade 10, so a lot of programs for grade 10s. And of course, general interest people on tours. I created a reference library, so I had to brief a lot of books on absolutely everything. I worked with veterans files. I supervised staff that created databases of pictures and graphics dealing with World War I, World War II, Cold War era items. So I did a fair bit in my career. So if you have a particular interest in World War II history and any questions about World War II history in general, I'll gladly try and answer them. I am mostly a Canadian military historian, so I know more about Canadian stuff than a lot of the rest of the world. Do I have access to secret documents? The Ojibwa's regular annual reports that were done when they were declassified once the submarine was given up by the military. I was probably one of the first half dozen civilians to read it, probably. I don't know for sure. Through talking to a number of submariners, we were eventually given 2 hush orders of things not to talk about to the general public while giving tours and discussions on board the submarine. Do I know secret stuff? Maybe by accident. I didn't see the secret documents, but I might have been able to piece a few things together. I know someone who has handled the Avro Aero box of documents that is in the National Archives and sealed. I know people who have done that sort of thing. I've only ever dealt with things officially that was released. Mind you, some of it concerning the Cold War era subs was cutting edge released. So through Canadian, obviously a lot of British and a lot of American stuff as well. I can talk about the War of 1812 as easily as I can talk about World War II. So as a historian, I have seen documents that used to be secret. Just depends on the time frame. There's open to access to things like, if you know where to look, the interrogation of German submarine crews during World War II. And when I interviewed some German submariners, they talked about their interrogation. And I was able to give them some feedback of what the report said because they've never looked them up. They've never seen it. So I've been able to relay and talk about things. To fully tell the story of what happened, you have to wait 75 or 100 years after the event. So things are just coming together now for all the information you need about World War II. There's a lot of things that are popular history that are not factual. The biggest one is Japan surrendered not because of the atomic bombs. They surrendered because of the Russian declaration of war against them in August 1945. And their hatred of the Russians was so strong, they didn't want to surrender any of their natural territory. And they didn't want to have an occupation force of Russians in Japan proper. So they hurried to surrender, and they were just so destroyed. The 2 atomic bombs got dropped before they could surrender. So you don't know that until you witness it, you see the paperwork, you see the classified paperwork that comes out 50 or 75 years later, and then you forget about the prejudices that people had in writing documents of the time period. And you gather things in from other countries that can be translated. And then you take databases that can amalgamate information together. And you draw from all of that, and then you can tell what actually happened in history. And sometimes even then, things are so deeply buried, there are small things that you'll never figure out. So I hope that answers the question. I don't like to lecture too much, but you're Russian. That's okay. I'm not going to hold any bias against you because you're Russian. After Germany, so he was part of that group that moved to the east. A lot of them had to drive their vehicles over the Urals to alleviate the rail traffic. What was his job within the military in World War II? Fire brigades. It's a little soon still. Okay. What am I going to do for defense? Let's get that in. So the whole United States wanted, we have this big new weapon and that's why they surrendered. And we saved 1 million casualties by not having to invade Japan proper. They would have taken great advantage of having the Russians being some of those 1 million casualties that was expected. And they would have shared Japan in some way, the same way they did with Germany. And that's what Japan was trying to avoid. Königsberg. Ah. Okay, so he was infantry. He was not armored or anti-aircraft gun. He was infantry. A grunt on the ground. And you're saying great-great-grandfather, so you must be a young person. I'm going to say under 35, probably 25. Took Berlin. Yeah, there was a lot of Red Army in Berlin. Believe me, the Germans were defending that. That was just stupid of them to hold out that long. But anyway, that was Hitler's insanity as far as I'm concerned. Ah, you're even younger, 16. Cool. I'm assuming since you said you're Russian, you must be in Russia now. What time of the day is that? Must be late or middle of the night for you. Thanks for staying up. You're avoiding homework or school? Medical research. Okay, that's all done. That's the training fleet. that unit train. 22:58, so 11 p.m. local time. Okay, I'm on daylight savings time. It's only 5 p.m., so you are only... You must be in the western part of the country. Oh, you live in Germany. Okay, okay. That explains. But you live in Germany, that's another long story. No need to get into it. I'm Canadian. People from all over the world have come to Canada, and they're all long stories. I think Canada's officially filled up with opportunists and the victims from every place in the world where anything disadvantageous ever happened. That's Canada. Gives us a unique outlook, but let's not go into politics and that kind of thing today. Ba-ba-ba. They're mostly trained. Turn that off. We'll train that one. And that one for now. And yep, people move around the world. My parents were in England during World War II. My oldest sister was born during World War II up in this area here in northern England. I had two uncles that were with the British Expeditionary Force in France in 1940. They both got off at Dunkirk. Those two uncles and one other fought in North Africa. One came back as a training sergeant for the rest of the war. The other two were taken prisoners by the Italians. One was killed being transported back to Italy by a friendly fire submarine. Took out an Italian boat that was full of British prisoners. They knew they'd broken the code, but they didn't tell the submarine that because they were doing the screening actions for the torch operations going this way. And the submarine just decided to go the wrong way. The third uncle was on a different ship, but the same convoy, then got across to Italy and ended up in an area which is now Poland. Let me just see if I can... So there is coal in this... Sorry. There are mines in this area of Poland. And he was a prisoner of war and essentially forced labor in a coal mine. Half your family died in concentration camps. Yeah, there's a lot of those sad stories out there. So the uncle that died, obviously I didn't talk to. That was, I wasn't born until many years later. But when I did go back to England as a teenager, I did talk to my two uncles that participated in France in 1940. And I've talked to many veterans from many countries. Okay. So any questions about World War II or about the game? I don't know, with you being 16, what kind of an education you've had, proper education in schooling, and I don't know whether that'd be from Russia or Germany. I know Germany teaches a lot differently World War II now than they did 30 years ago. And depending on your situation, you're just watching. Okay. Well, enjoy yourself. You weren't taught. Okay, well, let me know if you have any basic questions. The teacher skipped that topic. And can I ask, was that in Russia or Germany? And that would have been recently in the last couple of years. And for a lot of, I mean, there's a big debate in Canada about how much it should be taught. So I can understand teachers, if they're giving more freedom, depending on their viewpoint, omitting the discussions in Germany. Okay. Well, let me know if you have any questions. Okay, dispersed. That's this one. Amelia Earhart circumnavigated against the globe. That didn't actually happen. She died. The Weimar Republic. Okay. So there's something you know a lot about. Likely more than me. I think I'd better get a little bit more fuel. This isn't always the most interesting game to watch. Things happen very, very slowly. Close enough. Let's get that. Okay, I have one more industry point. Well, I'm going to have to and no, Rommel did not go to Spain in 1937. But Germans did, and they fought against Russians that were fighting on the other side. Whoa. So when you look through the map here, you will see Russian units. So Italians, Russians went as entire units supported by their country, and there was people from all over the world that went and fought on both sides. It was seen as a leftist, socialist, quasi-communist fight against right-wing fascism. So there are Russian units and German units that actually saw combat in Spain in 1937, 1938. Kind of a prelude, and everybody tested out their equipment. Almost a proxy war is the term they would use today. And the German air power was really shown what it could do, as well as tanks. A Russian whose parents grew up in the USSR don't really believe in the stories that Stalin murdered that much civilians. My teachers say around about 60 million, but I don't believe in that. I research on my own, and I know that there were that paranoia shit there. Around 4 million people died. 1.2 million were innocent after later research, and even if we count with the still 50 million more to go. Yeah, okay. Good question. My documentation leads that the number would be closer to the 60 million than 10 million. 60 million could be high. I wouldn't say it's unbelievable or unprovable to prove that it was 30 million, maybe 40 million in total, but you're dealing with over his entire lifetime, pretty much, most of that would be the cleansing that was done in his early years. I know of many families that left, particularly the Ukraine area here, and came to Canada after World War II, and the genocide that was done to the Tatars, T-A-T-A-R, Tatars, in the Crimea, and to non-Russian Ukrainians in the Ukraine region was fairly high. A lot of non-Russian, non-core Russian ancestry people were the victims. The amount of victims that were Russian were generally political. Stalin did a lot of genocide very quietly, and not all of it was straightforward, depending on how you count the numbers. If you starved people in Ukraine, does that count on the 30, 60 million, whatever number you want to calculate at? He didn't actually lock them away and take them away, but he did take away the Tatars population and put them in concentration camps, out in, well, as they say, Siberia. So depending on your parameters of your time frame and how you count the numbers, I can see on how some people could get that up to 60 million. If it's just war related or political related, no. War, political, and literal genocide, killing off people that were not core Russian. So, like those two groups, that's the two groups I know the most of. I know some people that came from Georgia, and a couple of other non-core areas, and the stories all seem to match up. So to answer the question, it depends on how you want to count the numbers. And a lot of it is not well documented because it's essentially starving a lot of people to death too. So the people that are saying 60 million would be counting everything like that. The Ukrainians were blamed for the stuff they did in World War II. After Germany marched in Ukraine, the Ukrainians gave him bread and welcomed him with open hands. There were even a Ukrainian SS division. Yes, I'm well aware of the Ukrainian SS division. Matter of fact, we had a little bit of a controversy here in Canada last year, where when Zelensky came to Canada, they had this World War II veteran who was actually part of the Ukrainian SS, and it became a big embarrassment in our politics here in Canada. Now, he was from the fringe area, which is now maybe even classified as Poland, but he spoke Ukrainian, and he was fighting for his country in independence from Russia, and Germany was playing favorably into that. So a lot of men fought for the Germans, against the Russians. And yes, of course, Stalin blamed them on that. Okay, and there's still hard feelings there. So, yeah. And of course, but the Germans came in and, of course, they persecuted the Jews, the gypsies, homosexuals, a whole range of individuals in every land they walked into. But they also recruited, people who they could use to fight, and it was controversial. The German army didn't really want them. That's why they became SS, because the SS had different supply lines and different ways of putting armaments in men's hands. It was almost not quite, but it was like a separate and private but parallel army. So that's why they were considered SS. They were not the SS death troops, the Ukrainian SS. I mean, a few of them could have been, and they could have transferred into those policing units, yes, but the unit itself was not. Many people got deported from the Caucasus because they were like ultra Islamic or something, but you're not sure. Yes. I don't know about the Caucasus, but definitely there were Muslims in the Crimea area which were deported out as well. And Polish people were hard done by the Russians that came into eastern Poland as well. There was definitely Stalin pulling strings. So, if you count that along with everything else, your number is going to reach 60 million. I mean, you're just dealing with so many people. 60 million becomes a number that is not as large as what you're dealing with how many people actually live in the entire regions. I mean, it's sad to say, but that's the honest truth. $600K citizens in Poland back then. Hitler was responsible for all kinds of genocide in Poland, and it continued on. It continued on to the east a long ways. The terrible treatment of prisoners on both sides of the German-Russian conflict. The USSR signed but never ratified the Geneva Convention, which governed the treatment of prisoners. Therefore, the Germans deemed they did not have to treat them equally as they treated the British, French, Belgian, Dutch prisoners, American. Therefore, they were treated much worse. And Russia and the USSR, Stalin, because he did not sign that agreement either, did not treat prisoners of war very well. And a lot of them, I mean, there were prisoners in Canada into 1947, and some of them got back to England. It was 1948. It was a good 3+ years after the war ended. And that's ones that were kept under good terms here in Canada and England. It took 3 years or more to get back. There were some that were held by Russia that did not get back to Germany until early 1960s, I believe. Yeah, there's a lot of graveyards, a lot of unmarked graves too. A lot of unmarked stuff. Yes, that's right. But they could legally get away with it internationally, because the anything that was associated, they treated everybody who was non-Aryan not as well, but the European whites, North American whites, were generally treated better than the Slavs, the Asians. The whole range of everything else. But now you're looking at through modern lenses as well. Okay? What I mean is, how bad were they treated compared to how, let's just use the Arabs in World War I with the Turkish prisoners, and Turkey with the Arab prisoners during World War I that fought in this area of the world. They were treated much, much, much worse than even the conditions that the survivors of Germany and Russia prisoners. Yeah, yeah, you're right. As a historian, I have to agree. Yeah. The term genocide can go back thousands of years. The term crimes against humanity was a term an American used for the first time talking about Turkey, about the Armenians, and how there was a forced march, women and children, old people, all forced. And I have a friend who's Armenian descent, and I talk to her regularly, and some of her ancestors were Armenian and survived that genocide. One of her grandfathers. So those kind of atrocities have been around, just not well publicized until World War II. But that was kind of pretty standard around the world. Even when you come back to the American Civil War, there's a very famous camp in the South where soldiers from the northern states were held, and appalling conditions, as bad as anything you can think about in the camps in Germany or Russia. And huge amount of death. So it's not an Eastern European, a Central European, or a European, or an Asian thing. I've interviewed a man who was a guest of the Japanese during World War II. He was taken prisoner at Singapore, down here. And in 1937, he was in Shanghai when the war broke out between Japan and China. He was British, and they were protecting the international zone. And he was in solitary confinement for 1.5 years in Japan. So I've talked to some people that have been through brutal things. My own uncle was a prisoner of war in a German camp. Ooh, 3 skills. Seducer, safecracker, and well-groomed. We'll take you. Not done yet. You don't know what that place is called in Belarus, but you were there. It is a memorial where once was a giant village where all people that lived there were put in one building that later was burned down. Yes, that happened in several locations around the world. Oh, there were war crimes all over the place. The victors can hide it a little better. The winner tells what history is. That's why it takes 100 years to get rid of that prejudice to actually talk openly about it. Ah, there's the name. The Japanese did horrible things to the Chinese. Yes, they did. They did terrible things to all of their prisoners of war. And that's why it's not a gaming concept. Yeah, that type of thing happened during the American War for Independence against the British, even. I mean, it's happened in a lot of places around the world. Old people, women, and children were herded into a building, and the building was destroyed with them inside. Okay, we have some dockyards. Birdies, what's your problem? You've got din-din? Go eat your din-din. It's not night-night time. Okay, so don't yell at me. If you want to take a nap, go ahead. Everything's looking good here. I can't do that. And I can't do that. So I got to do some reorganizing here. These guys are ready to go to the front as defensive units. We're going to put 5 of them to the north. And these 5 we're going to put to the west. These two we will move to the south. Send them there. Reserve 1. We're going to send it to here. Start sending a few guys to the Austrian border. Oh boy, that's a touchy subject. That is an unknown. The tenacity of them fighting. Look at the spirit of the people in Leningrad. What they put up with without surrendering. Okay? If that spirit was dominant in the rest of the USSR, they could have been pushed back past Moscow and fought on from the other side of the Urals, with Moscow and Stalingrad fallen. Economically, they would have collapsed if they lost all of their oil reserves from down here. So Stalingrad was starting to cut the industrial oil supply. What the Lend-Lease did is allow them to fight back easier, better, and quicker. Okay, let me just read this again. What do I think? I only read the first half. Mainly the UK, but also the USA sent help. Canada did as well. There were tanks made here in Canada that made the Soviet Union to the USSR in planes, rifles, and tanks. But Russian Soviet documents say that this help made up 4% of the Soviet stockpile. I have no way of judging that 4% number as being different than the 4% that it's reported. I've never seen anything about that. The amount of materials that went made a difference. You don't want to count all the allies? Well, if you have to add another one, you have to add Canada. Because Canada gave out so much stuff to everybody. Including stuff we gave to the US and England. We are the next in line of the Allies. We're number 3. We had our own beach on D-Day. We were the only Allied nation other than the US and Britain that was in charge of a regional area for the war. The Battle of the North Atlantic was under Canadian jurisdiction, so we're number 3. Was it a dominion? Technically, yes, but what does that mean? We did not declare war until a week later on Germany. We had control of our own foreign policy. We were very much in touch with it. At that time, we could not change our own constitution, and we had a lot of ceremonial stuff with England. and we were still affiliated very strongly in how we thought with England. We were not a colony. We were a dominion, and we were the lead dominion. We were closer to independence fully than any other British colony. We were barely a step away from having our own total destiny. We were not at war when England declared war. We didn't declare war until like the 10th on Germany. Mind you, we declared war on Japan before the American Congress officially declared war on Japan. So, a lot of people around the world don't understand the relationship between Canada and England in that time period. So, you are a 16-year-old. Do you consider yourself an adult? Do you consider yourself a child? Are you different than a 12-year-old? Are you different than an 8-year-old? Are you different than a 5-year-old as far as acting like an adult? So if you could be considered an adult when you are, a lot of countries say 18. So to kind of generalize, if a country classifies you as an adult at 18, similarly, Canada would be 17 and a half in World War II. Yeah. You're a 16-year-old boy. You're not an adult. Okay. Do you think other adults would talk to you much more reasonably than a 12-year-old or an 8-year-old about serious things? A witness in a crime, your viewpoints on things, stuff that you've learned in school, they would respect you more. No, it's not a question, right? It's how to look at it. So, Canada is a dominion, but if you're able to be your own person when you're 18 years old, move out of the house, legally live by yourself, etc., let's just say it's 18. It might be 21 in Germany. I don't know what it is. But if it was 18, Canada would be like 17 and a half. So it's almost, but it isn't. But you have to respect it. Okay, just as most of society would respect a 16-year-old. In Canada, we let them drive at 16. You can't vote, but you can drive. So, what rights and privileges does a country have as a dominion compared to a full country? Canada went through a big transition. You understand? Yay, one for me. I explained something. Oh, I'm not relaxing. I'm overkilling. Unfortunately, there's a delay between when I say something and when you hear it. Therefore, your response comes late, and I babble on these. I'm relaxed. Don't worry. I'm not frustrated or angry or upset. I appreciate the questions, actually. I enjoy it. $18, August 1937. Okay. Let's convert that to those. There we go. Okay, that one's trained. Man, we're up to 66 ships in this unit. It's a frickin' navy. Okay, where do I go from here? Okay. Oh, look at the time. Wow, when I stream this game, the hours just seem to go by so fast. You watched a documentary a few months ago, and that was made by and USA Studio, okay? I don't know the name. That told that D-Day was about to collapse, and if Russia wouldn't start a harsh push on the east from the guys in D-Day would be in trouble. I've never heard that story. I never heard of any pressure put on the... I heard the reverse. The USSR was always pushing for a second front. They'd been pushing for a second front for 2 years. So they were quite happy that was there. Did it almost collapse? Omaha, the American beach, was almost lost on the first day. One of the saving factors was British destroyers that came over and gave close support. The Americans were using large battleships and cruisers farther back, but they needed the detailed fine-tuning shooting. And that saved Omaha Beach. The days after that, before the breakout, there was not a question of losing the entire front, but there was definitely some problems with performing the breakout, joining up with some of the paratroopers, getting through to Cherbourg. There's a very famous story that is Canadian history. There's a place called Dieppe. And in 1942, the Canadians landed at Dieppe in what was a large-scale commando raid, but it was a practice for D-Day is how they spun it off. It was a disaster. Canada lost a lot of troops. There was no coordinated air power, no coordinated naval firepower. A lot of things were done wrong. And a lot of it was testing for how to do an invasion against the Germans. And kind of very, very important, the lessons that were learned and why that operation was done. It was done in 1942 to show the Russians, yes, we will work up towards it. Yes, we can do this now. It is coming, Stalin. It is coming. Um, Proud, disappointed, misunderstood, confused. There's a street in my town called Dieppe because of it. I would think Canada is most proud of having its own beach on D-Day, more than Dieppe, more than our contribution to the Commonwealth Air Training Program of training so many Air Force people for the Allies. The biggest World War II contribution is that, and then the liberation of the Netherlands. Yeah, you're talking about D-Day landing. Yes, Canada's very proud of the D-Day landings. It is a core memory that is still taught in school. D-Day is probably, let me put it this way, if we're going to teach anything about World War II to students in high school, the last thing that's going to get removed from the curriculum is D-Day. So yeah, Canada is exceedingly proud of that. The liberation of Holland, the food drops that we dropped in Holland to keep the people alive who were starving over the last winter of occupation. And when it became a no-fire zone, and Canada signed that, so the Germans just defended until the end. The Canadians would not attack until the end and just wait it out because there was no sense anybody getting killed. It was almost like a private armistice between the Allies, mostly the Canadians, and the Germans that were occupying the eastern part of Holland. It's not talked about much, but it created a relationship between Canada and the Netherlands that is unique and still to this day is incredibly strong. So those are the two things that Canada is probably the most proud of, its contribution of putting down the Nazis in World War II. Is it true that one of the last divisions that was defending the Reichstag were French SS divisions? I do not know. I would have to do some research on that. I honestly do not know. I mean, like I said, they were SS because the Wehrmacht wouldn't take them in and arm them, but the SS would. Therefore, there was Dutch, French, right, Ukrainian, SS units, but you can't think of them as the extremist branch. Your grammar isn't bad. You're not perfect, but you're not bad. You don't have to apologize for it. I've seen Canadian students that do worse, that are your age. You articulate your words very well for a 16-year-old that doesn't have English as their first language. It's probably your third language, it's probably not even your second language. It's probably your third language. Since you live in Germany, you probably have heritage Russian and German, so those are probably your two primary. And English would be your third language, but I do know English is often taught in German schools. Okay, I got to use this 35 points, and I need to make an enhanced infantry. Let's make that toad. Medium artillery. Toad. Motorized artillery. Motorized artillery. Motorized artillery. 10, 25. I've got 35 points. And we will make the anti-air toad as well for 35 points. And that becomes an enhanced infantry unit. Okay. What happened to the French fleet after they capitulated? Did they have a choice to join the Vichy's or keep fighting for the Allies? Very few ships joined the Allies. I think the official order was they were to be Vichy controlled. At that time, France held a lot of its navy in North Africa, and a lot of it was based down here in these ports, these three ports that are here, and even Tunisia in this area here at that time. And the British actually attacked them because they feared they would be turned over to the Germans. And that's a very controversial thing that Churchill ordered. And most of it was under Vichy control from the fall of France in 1940 and still in 1942. A lot of the ships were damaged by the British assaulting them. A few did join the British and fought as Free French. The majority, particularly the powerful battleships, were all down here. I don't know what happened to their aircraft carrier. They had one aircraft carrier. Churchill wasn't that chill. Churchill was very experienced, and he was about holding the line and defeating Germany, not appeasing. And once there was war, he believed in a sensible total war. And the fear was so big about the French fleet becoming German and joining with the Italians and creating a force that would overwhelm the British in the Mediterranean. That was Americans. That Patton, in particular, General Patton of the United States, was a big believer in attacking the Soviet Union. Churchill would have accepted it, but it wasn't a choice that he was making. And you have to remember, England had an election, and for the last several months of the war, Churchill was not the prime minister anymore. So at the end of the war, he essentially had no say. He was not the prime minister anymore. The government was defeated. He's got your respect for not making peace with Germany? Wow, yeah. That's, as they say, the tenacity of a British bulldog, right? For sure. Yes, my Churchill did not die until the mid-1960s. I was a young boy. My mother cried that day when Churchill finally died. And they were always full of stories about nobody could have gotten them through the war except for Churchill as prime minister. Oh, the Americans sold them computers. IBM, the German division of IBM, big American computer company, did all the tabulation of the genocide and everything else in Germany during World War II. There's a lot of companies that had German divisions that did an awful lot. And, I mean, there was trade going on with the U.S. and Germany into 1941. Not a lot, but there was. And, England was still doing trade in 1939. They didn't boycott Germany. That's a whole nother conversation. I want to do that, but 56 days. I can get 2 other things in. Yeah, I think Churchill is respected around the world because of what he did. He was worried sick over D-Day. He was very worried, but he flew to the front through Gibraltar and through this entire area by plane to be seen with the troops in North Africa while Italy and Germany still controlled this entire central area. It was outstanding what the man did at the age he was at the time, too. I mean, all of the leaders are interesting to study, Hitler and Stalin included. I don't necessarily agree with the politics of all 3 of those individuals, but they all have interesting things to be studied and learned. Okay. I should use some of my points. What was Patton so pissed about that he wanted to attack the USSR? He even said that it was better to fight with the Germans against the communists than fighting with the communists against the Germans. Yeah, he was very anti-communist. His belief was very old school, that it was just a matter of time until democracy and communism would have a confrontation, and we might as well do it and take in the fascists because they're not as big a threat in the end as Stalin and the USSR are. He did not envision the possibility of the effect of the atomic bomb causing mutually assured destruction so that the democracies and the communists would not go to war directly. He did not understand that. That was his biggest problem. So he was thinking very traditional, not in how the world had changed in the last year or two at the end. And yeah, it's quite common for wars where you have beat a nation, they now join you. And I mean, Italy surrendered to the Allies and literally mobilized against Germany. Italy was fighting against Germany by the end of the war. Technically. They were pretty much destroyed, and they weren't going to put their military, the Allies were not going to allow Italian military units fighting Germany, but there was a lot of background stuff that was done. And therefore, he wanted to do the same thing with Germany against the USSR. So he was looking at it at a very practical 1900s political view. He might have been a brilliant military general, but he was a totally useless politician. and he actually believed that the USSR was a bigger threat than the fascists all along. That was his belief. You wanted to add a thing when you were telling that your mom cried when Churchill died. My grandmother told me that Gagarin was the... What's that next word? Onlyest famous person's death she ever... The only famous person's death she ever cried about. Gagarin. Yuri Gagarin. Yeah. Now there's a Cold War story that is not appreciated by the United States at all, and very little more by the Western democracies, including Canada, is the ability for the USSR to put Yuri Gagarin up there and Sputnik. So yeah, that was definitely something showing that they were a power, and I can understand that. Quite the role model for the average Russian at the time. Very much. It's getting late. Well after midnight where you are. Speaking as a responsible over 60-year-old to a 16-year-old, what time are you going to go to bed tonight? He died like a hero. Yuri Gagarin, I'm assuming you're referring to there. Yeah. Yes. His job was to test flight new planes. Yeah. His plane had a malfunction, and he had a co-pilot, and for whatever reason, his co-pilot uh, didn't have a parachute, but Gagarin did. So he decided to not uh, not to jump and die with his friend. Yeah, you got to go to bed. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a true hero, isn't it? Right? He's not going to, he couldn't live with himself with the fact that he walked away and the other guy didn't or couldn't. Yeah, that's a true hero. So you're absolutely right. The time is moving on. And I need to go get my supper. So I am going to log off shortly here and call this an end. Stay up wherever you want. Yeah, I was your age too. I used to work a job till 2 in the morning and then bicycle home after that. And then I'd have to calm down. So I'd watch a movie or something till 3:30 a.m. And I did that a lot of weekends when I was 16, 17. Okay, well, let's just round out what we got here. We are increasing everything we have in store. We have hundreds of light tanks extra, lots of other supplies. We can start building up our forces and keep a reserve of equipment. We have only 800,000 in the field. We can move upwards. You hope I will stream more often, because I don't see you streaming really often. I don't stream Hearts of Iron very often. If you follow me on Twitch and you want a notification that will come out, you can do that. I stream every day, but I don't stream this game every day. I'll probably stream this game at least every other day for the next week. At least every day, but the time will not be consistent. It might be during the middle of the night for you. I quite often stream this later on. I do a lot of medieval games as well, and I sometimes stream 3 times a day for 2.5 hours each. This is 3 3/4 hours. This is a long stream for me. But I've enjoyed our conversation. Thank you very much. Nice to talk to young people with a different background than me, from a different country than me. And I appreciate your time. EU4? I don't own EU4. That's one of the few strategy games I don't actually own. I was streaming Going Medieval. I have streamed Bellwright. In the past, I have done Medieval Dynasty, Medieval Engineers. There's a whole bunch of medieval games. Well, I'm retired. I've got all the time in the world. I live alone except for my 2 pet birds, Bonnie and Clyde. So I really need to get going. It's time for me to do some other things. Anybody who's watching on YouTube, please follow if you want to see more Black Ice mod for Hearts of Iron 4. If you like this particular playthrough, hit that like button. And any questions you have, be it about the conversation or the gameplay, whatever, please forward it to me. If it's about the conversation, you'll have to give a time reference in the video. So thanks one and all. So it's goodbye from Grandpa Canuck and Bonnie and Clyde, my 2 green cheek conures, who always get in on the ending conversation. So until next time, we're signing off. All you people and bots, hope things are going good for you, and be good to each other. Take care. Bye-bye.